Damn it! It's a dead end, so you might as well take your shot.
I've been waiting for someone like you, boy.
What? What the hell is that? Is that a phone?
You're gonna look real nice and pretty for my film.
What type of film?
My adult film, boy.
Oh, an adult film.
It's gonna be
Whoa,
hey man, okay, okay,
On the
hey man,
floor
hey man,
now.
okay,
On the
look man,
floor.
okay, I'm sorry, okay, man.
On the
Okay man, look
A
man,
little
okay.
bit of explaining
Okay,
needs to be
okay,
done.
okay, I'm sorry man, okay, here, let me come forward, okay, let me come share with you. I'm an adult film director, okay, our female lead, she dropped out, we're looking for a hot male lead, man. Well, you look like you got the perfect body for it, man.
So you're recruiting me in this alley?
Yeah man, it's gonna be hot.
Yeah. Balls out. Now.
What?
Your testes out.
Okay.
Yeah, unzippy time. Let's go. Let's go.
Please don't.
Okay. You know what? That's not enough. On the floor. Get on the floor now.
Okay.
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
You know what happened the last time someone tried to threaten me?
What?
Crushed his skull in.
Question for the avid porn watchers out there. Do they make direct sequels? You know, like do the filmmakers continue the storyline with reoccurring characters? Genuine question. I don't know anybody that watches porn for the plot. Maybe I should now though. I could take some inspiration for future screenplays. I don't know, could be fun. Either way, here is finally the anticipated sequel for Ty West's X trilogy. Call it a threequel. Good God, has it already been 2 years since Pearl? Those new here to the channel and wondering where my reviews for X and Pearl are, I've already made them. Go back and check them out. I don't know, for me it's a bit cringe to go back and see the production quality of my older reviews, but I would say my overall thoughts on those two movies has stayed more so the same. I think I would say I appreciate them even more after watching this one. For now, we have a slasher porno that indeed focuses on the plot. Am I even allowed to say porn on YouTube and other platforms? I honestly have no idea, so to play it safe, from now on I'm gonna refer to the P word as corn. I think that's a close enough word to where you'll understand what I mean, and I should be able to outsmart the algorithm machines. I don't know how it works. Now, was it worth the wait? And has Ty West delivered the definitive slasher conclusion to the Mia Goth cinematic universe? Let's unbuckle our pants and hawk-twa our way into this. Oh, I hate myself for saying that. MaXXXine. Adult film star and aspiring actress MaXXXine Minx finally gets her big break in 1980s Hollywood, but mysterious killings start to reveal her bloodied, sinister past. I just caught myself and realized that I haven't been wearing the proper glasses, so let's switch on gears and really go back to the 80s. And now I can't read, and you can see my setup in the reflection. So from the beginning, we are immediately reminded as to why we came to see this and why I think this X trilogy has stayed on our radar. Mia Goth. She has built herself up to be one of modern horror scream queens, and I am all for it, because she continues to kick so much ass here. Her range and ability to go back and forth from a loose girl boss to some serious compelling drama moments really gives her one of the best female performances I've seen this year. I myself haven't seen any of her other roles outside of this franchise. I just really want to see her in even more stuff now, especially stuff outside of the horror genre. And going forward, I don't want to see her restricted to doing only horror projects, which is kind of a funny coincidence because that's also in line of her character in this movie. Someone that wants out of the corn industry and wants to be seen as more of a serious talent that can do other roles. Pretty meta, actually. Her character of MaXXXine is a lot more compelling in this than she was in X, and at some point it really feels like she harnessed the best energy she captured in X and Pearl. The whole gimmick being that those two characters have a lot more in common than they care to admit. So Mia Goth's presence is the biggest selling point in this movie, but that doesn't mean there weren't other supporting characters that also had the spotlight. And we'll get to those other supporting characters in a minute, because I want to go over what I think is the second most important character of this movie, which isn't even an inanimate human. It is the 1980s Hollywood setting. So even though I'm not too big on filmmakers glazing and over glorifying Hollywood due to its cesspool of qualities that are always overlooked, that are just too difficult to ignore as someone who lives here, it is still always refreshing to get a glimpse into another time period. It feels like Ty West had so much more confidence in the world building this time compared to X and Pearl, and even though it shares the same budget as those other movies, side note, each of these movies cost only $1 million to make. That's pretty insane. It genuinely feels like a step up in production value, and you would think that this movie had a higher budget than the other ones. I think it's thanks to this movie taking place in a heavily urban area, while the other two movies took place in a rural environment. It just adds so much more depth to every shot. It just makes you want to jump into your screen and experience all the retro aesthetics that this time period period has to offer, despite all the serial killings and all the other bullshit 1980s America had to offer. I just think the setting adds so much more depth and character than most other people I'm seeing talk about it. Also, I'll admit I might be a bit biased in this regard because this is one of the few instances where a major motion picture shot and used locations that I am completely familiar with and have actually worked on myself. So I don't know, it was just so much fun to just recognize so many locations in this movie. It's cute, and it's just a good reminder that this was a movie made by actual human hands rather than out of touch executives that completely rely on AI and CGI for their movies. Oh god, I'm getting way too existential right there. Going back to actual human artistry. The rest of the supporting cast. Everybody adds little bits to the vibe, and a lot of them do embrace and own their 80s cliches and stereotypes. There are some big names here. Some that aren't necessarily working actors, but they still contributed to this movie. I'm sure they have their crazed fans coming out to support it, which I'm all for. But I'll give a shout out to the actors whose characters I think really did contribute to this movie's plot. Elizabeth Debicki? Representing ambitious female directors in Hollywood that have to go through so many more hurdles and deal with so much more prejudice and bullshit in this industry. And holy moly, that actress is 6'3". Talk about a fierce presence. She was intimidating as fuck in this. Giancarlo Esposito not doing another variant of Gustavo Fring? Hello, my name is Gus, and I am sus? Look, I like Breaking Bad, but I feel like every role this guy has been doing since has just been a variant of Gus. He's just been playing non-stop super menace roles, and I just cannot take his menace stare seriously anymore. It's nice to see him have very different mannerisms and have a very different vocal performance than what he is known for, especially since he's a Hollywood agent in this that isn't a complete scumbag. This is all unfamiliar territory. And Kevin Bacon was a neat surprise. I didn't know he was gonna be in this. Something about his over-the-top southern accent was just so satisfying to listen to in this. Something like this, something like molasses secreting down the side of a jaw in the summertime. I don't know, that's my best southern accent. I think all those characters in particular had a lot to say about Hollywood and just about the film industry as a whole. All the other supporting characters I didn't mention here still contributed a lot to the slasher formula where you can kind of always tell who's going to be the next target. Basically whoever's getting a copious amount of screen time while it's nighttime. Maybe you won't get too attached to them, but they're serviceable enough to keep MaXXXine's motivations going. And of course, how can I talk about a slasher without discussing the carnage? The heavy emphasis on practical effects for the gore is always appreciated, especially since this whole trilogy feels like it's paying homage to so many other slasher movies. For me, it lands on the borderline of looking believable and looking pretty cheesy but still entertaining. Certain hits and kills were pretty brutal and shocking to see, which I imagine is like the biggest compliment one can bestow on the special effects makeup department. Oh, that ball crushing scene. It's definitely a highlight scene of the year for me, and I would love to know just what went into those testicles behind the scenes. No pause. That shit made my stomach hurt. So I'd say the first third of this movie, hell, even the first 2/3 of this movie had me hooked. The mystery and setup of these killings, the way it was leading you on and giving you hints as to who it would be, it was all very interesting and very compelling stuff. Unfortunately, it really was that killer reveal, and I would say the last 30 minutes of the movie that really dropped the ball for me. The satanic panic shown throughout the movie was really cool because it was actually in line of what was occurring in LA during that time. Well, maybe not just LA, nationwide. The new notion at the time was that music and movies were inherently evil and were out to capture and get everyone to convert to Satanism, and they would dare cast whoever engages in them straight to the pits of hell. Pretty funny in retrospect, and pretty fitting actually to the overall tone of these movies. The alluding to the killer being the Night Stalker, aka Richard Ramirez. For those who are unaware of who he is, he was basically the notorious serial killer of the 1980s, who basically terrorized Los Angeles and would just randomly pick out random houses and kill whoever was in it with very brutal methods. I'm not going to get into the details at all. If those of you that want to do more research and learn more about him, go right ahead. There's plenty of documentations here on YouTube, but viewer discretion, it's very disturbing stuff. And he basically did all these killings in the name of Satan. So the connections were all coming together. And it's obvious that the movie wanted you to think and believe that he was going to be the ultimate revealed killer. Now, would it have been controversial and maybe even a bit insensitive to use fairly recent murders as a plot device? Yeah, probably. But would he have been a better revealed killer than MaXXXine's hyper-religious father? Oh yes, absolutely. Everything with the twist of the killings being MaXXXine's dad just wasn't it. It was underwhelming and it just felt kind of played out at this point. How many other movies have we seen hyper-religious cults going killer mode in the name of punishment from their god? It's just meh for me at this point. It just didn't feel like the movie's final climax reached its true potential. And everything with MaXXXine's dad was just a pretty minor character throwback to X. I completely forgot she even had some sort of relationship with her father. I'm just imagining how cool it would have been to change history history in this movie and have MaXXXine interact with Richard Ramirez. Imagine if she was the one that ended his reign of terror and delivered the killing blow to him. Imagine if she was the one to pull the trigger on him. Why not have him be the one get his balls crushed? I don't know. He more than deserves it for the evil fucked up stuff he did. Just like what Quentin Tarantino did with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with the Manson family, Ty West could have delivered an alternate turn of events that would have felt a lot more climactic and could have honestly maybe shed some light to those that experienced that reign of terror from the Night Stalker all those years ago. It would have even brought way more redeemable factors to the character MaXXXine. I'm not saying she's a completely unredeemable character, it's just that the ending here suggests that she's just going to continue to be a cog in the machine that is the Hollywood industry. The machine of Hollywood that is manipulation and exploitation. I'm just imagining how much more she could have done and would have been if she ended up saving lives from Richard Ramirez. Here it was just more so of her running away from her abusive past and defending herself against it, which I guess you can argue is a lot more relatable to women out there, pursuing actors or not. Crazy parents are universal, and sometimes they can be the ones to cause irreversible damage to you, or they'll be the ones that will push you over your edge and unintentionally help you to become a fierce machine that will set out and accomplish their goals and dreams. Interpret it how you like. From my perspective, it just feels like Ty West had the opportunity to say so much more about the very industry he is working in, and all the horrors of Hollywood that aren't even serial killer related. There are lots of them. By the end, it was wonderful to see Mia Goth again, and it was a satisfying enough conclusion to this character and overarching story. It does feel like the weakest installment to me, but I'm glad it's here because it makes me appreciate X and especially Pearl even more. I'm very curious to see what other projects Ty West has planned next, and now I know to always be on the lookout for any future Mia Goth roles out there. 6 out of 10, stylistic and saucy gore that pays homage to many other slashers with a disappointing killer reveal. Like that one review I saw on Letterboxd, I need her to crush my balls like that.